And Shannon Bream asked him, did you ask him to defend himself from, two judges and really three suggested that he was part of a gang in the first two and that he needed to be avoiding another gang perhaps by the third judge. And here's what he said, Senator. Watch.
I did not ask him directly because he's answered that question repeatedly, as his lawyers have. My purpose in going there was to, number one, see if he was alive, see if he was healthy, take his story. I want to be very clear. I'm not vouching for the man. I'm vouching for the man's rights, his constitutional rights to due process.
What do you make of that argument, Senator?
It's all performative politics right now for the Democrats. It's all they have. It's because they got stomped at the ballot box in November by a President Trump, who actually ran on the idea of making this country great, ran on deporting people who are here illegally, especially those criminal elements. And there's more than 1 million of those of the 20 million that came here illegally. So they lost that argument with the American people. And now I think through this sort of combination of Trump derangement syndrome and their disdain that many of the Democrats in Washington have for just normal Americans, that comes through. It's why they've lost working class voters. But this is the focus of their attention now, and all the political energy on the Democrat side is for this guy Garcia, who's an MS-13 member. I can't really believe it, but they're going with this. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to continue to have this debate about how detrimental illegal immigration has been for this country.
Why, Congressman, are you in El Salvador? You are there for an El Salvadorian man who was a resident illegally of Maryland. You're a congressman from Florida. Why are you in El Salvador?
Well, we're here because a man who had protected status in Maryland, a Maryland man, union member, worker with a citizen wife and beautiful children, was taken out of his state and out of the United States back over here without due process.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well, guys, here's the thing. I don't understand what's wrong with these Democrats, because every single time that these people are doing this type of thing, they're just quite honestly just going against every single bit of history here, or rather against the American people. And it's showing now to where these Democrats are supporting a El Salvador non-American MS-13 gang member that beats his wife, does trafficking and all this other stuff, and they're supporting. They're all in support of it, and they're all just going into this place, and it's insane. It's really, really insane on how they're come up with this. It's man.
Christian Garcia. I am here in El Salvador with a group of House Democrats advocating for the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and of course checking in on so many folks who have been sent here without due process. The Supreme Court has ordered unanimously that Kilmar Garcia should come back home to the United States. We also know that he was sent here wrongfully. The Trump administration admitted that. We have met now with the U.S. Embassy here, the ambassador. We're meeting with advocates on the ground who are organizing here in El Salvador. We've talked to Abrego Garcia's family, which is heartbreaking. And more importantly, we're here to raise awareness that Kilmar needs to come home. We need to build support here in El Salvador, but also in the United States. He must come home. And I'll say this lastly. The president defying a Supreme Court order is a fire alarm moment in this country. We cannot stand for it, and we must ensure that he's held accountable.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Yasemin Ansari. I represent Phoenix, Arizona. I am here with my colleagues to demand that Donald Trump facilitate the safe return home for Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The facts of this case are abundantly clear. Mr. Garcia was abducted. He is a father. He is a husband. He's a union member. His union leadership is advocating for him through the building trade, saying that he needs to come home. And he was wrongly deported.
Congresswoman Maxine Dexter here, coming to you from El Salvador. I flew here last night with 3 of my colleagues to demand that Kilmar Abrego Garcia be released. He is being held in violation of a Supreme Court order expressly telling the Trump administration to effectuate and facilitate his coming home.
Yeah. So all these people, all these Democrats thought it was an amazing idea, fantastic idea to go to El Salvador. And unfortunately for them, it's just not great, right? I mean, again, it says we have Garcia and Frost had requested from House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer, but were denied. Yeah, so it was all crazy, and it was supposed to be on the taxpayer. Yeah, you guys, my audience that probably works a normal job. You guys are supposed to pay for all this. You're supposed to pay for these Democrats to go to another country and has to go and do this, right? So again, the insanity is real with this one. And of course, we have this here from Maxwell Alejandro Frost saying, Chair Comer denied our request for an official trip to El Salvador to advocate for due process and the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Pretty shameful. Good thing I don't need Comer's permission to get on a plane. So yeah, they're willfully denying and doing this type of stuff, right? They're willingly denying the U.S. president and what the American people want, and it's annoying, right? So I don't know what I was going to do it, and fortunately for them, fortunately for the Democrats, Comer has denied obviously the request for them to go to El Salvador, and they're not happy about it. They're really, really upset about the situation.
You also, as chairman, have some duties and responsibilities, and that is signing off on travel for members of Congress who maybe want to go to El Salvador to meet with people who have been deported. What's your take on this? What are you going to do with this?
Well, I had two members of the House Oversight Committee, Garcia from California and Frost from Florida, and they sat there silent during the entire Biden investigation, during the entire investigation of Border Patrol and Mayorkas that we had in the Oversight Committee. If anything, they were obstructive. They weren't concerned. They showed no concern for the lack of our national security or the violation of our southern border security laws. But then this one person that the liberal media picked up on that was deported to El Salvador, they went crazy before it came out that he was actually an MS-13 gang member, and they wanted me to authorize funding at my committee's expense to send them down to El Salvador and meet with this person for a photo op and to have margaritas and, enjoy the sunny weather. And I obviously denied their request. We're not going to spend a penny of taxpayer dollars for liberal Democrats to continue their stunts to try to appease the radical left-wing base when the American people spoke loud and clear on Election Day. They want our southern border secured, and they want criminal illegals deported, and that's exactly what Donald Trump's doing.
Yeah, so again, it just goes to show that Democrats are foolish and dumb. They don't necessarily care about what the people have to say, the American people have to say about illegal immigration, because they'll keep on spinning the actual propaganda that everybody hates what Donald Trump is doing, and people are supporting Garcia here, and that's not seems to be the case. That doesn't seem to be the case at all. So, and I think these guys are already violating the Logan Act, and potentially I would even go there to say there's treason, because they're kind of aiding and abetting criminals, and I'm not talking about the one side. But before I get into that, we have this here where the Democrats are not happy, they're very angry, and they're complaining about all the situation, about this whole thing, and let's just say they're upset.
What do you know? Is there any chance you'll be meeting with Abrego Garcia while you're there?
Well, we're actually about to do a press conference to speak a little bit about this, but we got word at the embassy that our request has been denied by the government here locally. They say it's because we're not here on an official capacity. This is part of the reason why Representative Robert Garcia and I sent a letter to Chairman Comer of the Oversight Committee asking for this to be an official CODEL. But we're not giving up. We're going to continue. We have more meetings scheduled for the rest of the day. But part of this, too, is making sure that we keep the conversation alive. We're building off of the trip of Senator Van Hollen, and we're not the first members here, and we're not going to be the last.
The Supreme Court decision has come down to say you need to facilitate the return of this man back to the United States so he can go through due process, and the administration is saying no, we're not going to do it. In fact, we just had a meeting earlier today with the embassy. We left that meeting with absolutely zero indication that this administration has that this administration is going to facilitate or wants to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia back to the United States so he can go through due process. But we got to be clear, this isn't just about him. This is also about every single person in the United States. The Constitution applies to all people in our country. Due process applies to all people in our country. It's one of the things that sets our country apart from other places across the entire world.
Yeah, so the Democrats are not happy, and it doesn't seem like they want to give up. They want to be relentless. They want to keep on going after it. They want to keep on attacking this pointless thing that the Americans do not care for, and it's quite infuriating. It's quite annoying because nobody really cares on what they're doing at this point in time, and it all sounds like everybody is saying theater and just looks, and it's quite annoying. And it just seems that they're going to, even though they got denied from being paid by taxpayer money to go there, they are going to apparently stay there for the foreseeable future. I don't know how long, but they want to stay there until they get Abrego Garcia out, which is causing a whole slew of problems because what are they doing? It doesn't seem like they're benefiting or doing anything at all outside of going against the American people.
Because on July 1st of 2024, you posted on your website the following. It's up right now if anyone wants to go to your website. Our country and the world will now recognize this day as the day the Supreme Court of the United States effectively became an illegitimate, politically corrupt arm of the conservative right wing. That's when the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that Donald Trump had immunity from prosecution. And on that day 10 months ago, you called the Supreme Court of the United States illegitimate. Here today, all of a sudden, you seem to be very dedicated, principled, in fact, to the simple rules of law, due process, and legitimacy of the court.
I still hold that the Supreme Court is very much skewed to the right and that there is corruption on the court. I do hold that today. But the fact that the court is so skewed to the right, and even then, they're still saying a complete decision, unanimous decision, that he needs to be brought home, shows that this shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should be a thing that Democrats, Republicans, everybody are coming behind. Bring the guy home so he can go through due process. That is what the Supreme Court, the conservative-leaning Supreme Court said.
Congressman, from this vantage point, respectfully, if you haven't always been dedicated to these principles, if you in fact have called the Supreme Court of the United States illegitimate very recently, and if you can acknowledge that Abrego Garcia is not your average American citizen, and his circumstances are not anyone watching that is ready to be deported from the United States, from this vantage point, respectfully, it appears as though your trip to El Salvador is less about principle and even less about Abrego Garcia and more about grandstanding and fear-mongering American citizens in a continuing narrative that casts yourself as a hero in this melodrama and the villain as Donald Trump.
I am no hero at this moment. I am one of many fighting for the rule of law and fighting to ensure that everybody in this country have due process. I am one of many. I'm not the first member of Congress here, and I'm sure as hell not going to be the last. This isn't about Maxwell Frost. This is about preventing our country from losing what makes it exceptional, that no matter who you are, when you are in the United States, you have due process. That is one of the many things that sets us apart from other places in this world. And as a member of the United States Congress, I'm going to fight like hell.
Yeah, let's do a bit of a recap, all right? So the Democrats have gone out and decided to go to Abrego Garcia to visit El Salvador. They got denied that, and then now they are wanting to stay over there and try to wait until get Abrego Garcia out. Now, whether or not that they are wanted there per se by the El Salvadorian government, that is up to debate. But I wouldn't cry a river if these people end up getting arrested for being over there for ill intent or committing treason. Because again, we're going to go over a few things, right? Because obviously we have to go over this. Now, we already know that they have violated the Logan Act. This is clear a violation of the Logan Act, as we can see here. The Logan Act is a federal law, 18 U.S.C. 8953, that prohibits U.S. citizens from engaging in unauthorized private diplomacy with foreign governments. Essentially, it criminalizes actions by private individuals who influence foreign governments on matters involving disputes or controversies with the United States without the authority of the U.S. government. The act has been a topic of recent debate, with some suggesting it could be applied to certain private communications between U.S. citizens and foreign officials, particularly those involving former U.S. presidents. So, again, they are actively going after an individual that is not friendly with the government. Then, if we want to do this here, right? You know how I said they were labeled as treason? So first off, if we're going to put them under as treason, I have to explain on to why that would be. So one of the reasons why the Democrats, or at least these particular 4 Democrats, would be labeled under treason is because with the MS-13 being labeled as a foreign terrorist organization, and specifically designated as a global terrorist organization, it's that makes the U.S. Have the MS-13 be their enemy, right? So that makes MS-13 an enemy of the United States. So that being said, if we go into treason, what it says here in the U.S., treason is defined by Constitution as leveling war against the nation, adhering to its enemies, or giving them aid and comfort. Conviction requires testimony from 2 witnesses to the same overt act or a confession in open court. Penalties include death, imprisonment for at least 5 years, a minimum fine of $10,000, and an inability to hold public office. So I'm going to clarify what it means. So adhering to its enemies, which means that's what they're doing with the MS-13 member with Abrego Garcia. And then it says giving them aid or comfort. Well, what they're doing here is that they're definitely adhering to Abrego Garcia because they want to bring him back, and he's an MS-13 member, so he is obviously he is an enemy to the U.S. as per with the law that has been instituted by February 20th. So that's a problem with them. And then they're actually giving them aid and comfort. Well, what they're doing here is that they're trying to give this person aid, get this person out of one area from obviously El Salvador, which they can't do because it's considered illegal, and give them comfort to go into another place. So this is the problem that I have here. So you would actually have them be labeled with treason under these rules, under this type of area here. Because obviously, MS-13 is considered a terrorist organization, which makes that terrorist organizations are an enemy of the U.S., which translates to treason. So they're also being violation of the Logan Act, and they're also in violation of being a treason. So I don't know what else to tell you guys, but that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, what we all have, last thing I want to say here, is that the Democrats also have an issue with this here, with saying like, oh, everybody wants Garcia back. They want him back. He's an illegal immigrant, whatever. Well, I have very rough news for you guys. This is actually a report, statistics showing that 56% of the U.S. populace does not want illegal immigration.
All undocumented immigrants, voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive.
Oh yeah, the Democrats are massively in the wrong here. They're not fighting for the American people. I think this is just theater. I think this is just trying to grandstand. They look like they're the good people when they're not. And the American people are seeing right through this. And nobody wants to deal with these Democrats. Nobody wants to talk to them because they're liars. They lie and lie and lie, and they're not for the American people. So you keep on grandstanding for these illegal immigrants and Abrego Garcia because it's not going to be in your favor. It's going to be the downfall of you because obviously you're too stupid to understand where the American people stand for. Then, if you're not arrested in El Salvador, which please, El Salvador, please arrest these people. I want them arrested. They come back here and be tried for breaking the Logan Act and for treason. Because I'm tired of these Democrats. We need to have punishments for these people. It's just getting annoying at this point. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Subscribe, share. As always, take care, my friends.